Very good morning all. I'm Sunny Chandy from APNIC, Chair Assistant for the EC here. I'd like to welcome you all for the APNIC member meeting at APNIC 37. I hope you enjoyed the dinner last night, sponsored by APNIC. So this morning we have reports from Secretariat and other reports that happened during the day, during the week from the sessions. I just got a couple of announcements to make, and then I'll hand over to the Akinori to chair the session. First of all, the morning tea breaks will be on this foyer, as usual, like we've been having for the last 4 days. But only minor change for the lunch is we're going to go down to the Fusion restaurant on level 1. If you're staying in this hotel, you're probably having breakfast every day there, so it's the same place. That's where we go for the lunch. Now, I'd like to welcome the EC to the APNIC member meeting and hand over to the chair, Akinori Maemura. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunny. Good morning, everyone. My name is Akinori Maemura, Chair of the Executive Council of APNIC. And then let's start the APNIC member meeting. This is your business, our business, and to observe what is going on in APNIC Secretariat and the Executive Council. So we will start with a lot of reports from the Secretariat. Hold on, please. I shouldn't miss any point. Okay. I think we can start the report from the Secretariat. Then can I pass it to the Paul? Yes, Paul Wilson, our Director General, will start the Secretariat report, and maybe we have the several director to report.
Whoops. Good morning, everyone. We've got the usual summary of the annual report for the last year, for 2013, which I'm going to begin with. I'm going to launch into a bit of an introduction before mixing it up a bit and handing over to senior staff who are going to be taking various parts of this report. I think we'll be going for about 45 minutes or so, so please bear with us. I hope it's of interest, and you'll learn everything about what's been going on in the last year. As I said, this is a summary of an annual report which will be published next week, so you'll see the details in another form on the website if you're interested to follow that up. I think you've seen this before, but just in case, APNIC Secretariat with the EC over the last couple of years has been working on mission and vision and strategies and so forth. And I'd just like to remind us all of the mission of APNIC as we've described it most recently. No surprise, we're functioning as the RIR for the Asia Pacific in the service of our community. That's something we've been doing for a long time. In fact, everything on the slide is what we've been doing, but it's a new way of expressing it. We are dedicated to the highest possible standards of trust, neutrality and accuracy in our registry services. But we also support them with information, training and other supporting services to help those of us in the community to build and manage the internet. We're supporting critical internet infrastructure as we can, where needed, to help create a more robust environment. We're facilitating internet development in other ways, just as needed as we can in our unique role throughout the region. We're also providing leadership and advocacy outreach, information and representation in support of the vision and in support of this community. So you'll see how all of this is actually implemented in actual activities of the Secretariat. We've got a diagram too, an infographic. It's a very popular way to express 1,000 words, and this one shows where we see APNIC fitting in the environment of the Asia Pacific and in the global internet environment. So in fact, this large green circle in the middle shows actually the structure that you'll be seeing in the reporting today. We talk about the services we provide to members in one segment. We talk about the support that we provide to the Asia Pacific region, including members, of course, in the blue segment, and overall at a sort of global level, collaboration across the internet community in a whole lot of other ways. In the middle is the APNIC Secretariat, which supports the whole thing. And as you see in the top left, there's a bigger environment which APNIC fits into as a sort of enabler. So that environment represents the internet, centered on internet users, serviced by a number of different types of service provider, content and access and applications, and around those are a bunch of enablers who support the providers. And the number registries, of which APNIC is one of those enablers. Okay, there's a bunch more words there, which I won't go into, which detail how we see each of those segments. But again, you can see this graphic on the website if you'd like to take a closer look. And if I could move forward somehow, I think I've got a dead keyboard here. Okay, we're back. Okay, so to overview this report, and I'll be passing on very shortly, we'll be hearing about our services to members, the support for the development of the internet in the region, and the wider collaboration, and then finally the corporate, not so much governance as support that is provided by the Secretariat, and all of this is in aid of the APNIC vision, which is a vision of a global, open, stable and secure internet that serves the entire Asia Pacific community. Okay, I'll be handing on to George. Just before I do that, in case it's not well known to everyone here, we've had a bit of a restructure, as we often do at the APNIC Secretariat in terms of continually improving and developing the structure. But as of this year, I am joined and supported in a new way as DG by a newly appointed Deputy Director General in the form of Sanjaya, who you all know. Sanjaya has been around for a long time at APNIC, but he's moved out of his existing prior role as Services Director, which is now occupied by George Kuo, who's also been around at APNIC and working on services for a long time. And so, George, you're now required to show us your stuff. Here's George to talk about how we've been serving members over the last year. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to give you a report on serving the APNIC members. So my presentation is going to cover our registration services on IPv4, IPv6, and activity on AS number, IPv4 transfer, and also information on membership growth, and followed by some updates to our services. Now we are seeing a steady growth of IPv6 delegation over the last 3 years. So you can see the total number of delegation increases since this region saw the IPv4 exhaustion. If you're looking at the number of delegations that we've been making also over the last few years, we initially saw quite a bit of a surge in 2010, but there's a gradual decline over the last 3 years. That could be due to people are not having enough address space and not having to come back every year. An IPv4 delegation, it's also steady, growing in a steady manner. We're seeing average about 100 IPv4 delegation on a monthly basis. On IPv4 market transfer, even though it's not a linear growth, but we're seeing growth in 2013. And almost every other month, we see the transfer happening between we're seeing inter-area transfer between APNIC and AREN region. Last year, we had over 420 transfer that includes 19 inter-area transfer. With AS number, it's also showing a steady growth. It's good to see that 4-byte AS number is increased slightly than the previous years. And we also have given out over 7,000 2-byte AS number. Membership growth. Now, up until end of 2013, we have over 4,050 members, which is good to see. The colors here represent a different membership tier. Again, we are seeing a steady growth over the last 3 years, which is seeing over 500 growth per year. Now on to the WHOIS update. In around August last year, we introduced some new features, which include geolocation, language attribute, and there's also the WHOIS service that will allow users to see a specific object update over time, especially for those interested in what happened before the current registration. Another service introduced on the RDAT, Registration Data Access Protocol, which is still under IETF development. It's a service enhancement to the current WHOIS, allows standardization in the query and responses. We're seeing also the agreement in the information, consistency in the information type, and also allows the internationalization on the data that used other than the language other than the English. For those who are interested in more technical details, I would encourage you to have a look at the presentation that was made on Wednesday afternoon in the services session. That was delivered by George Michelson. There will be a lot more information there for you. Improvement made to my APNIC. We introduced what we call a referral application late last year. This is the service that allows existing APNIC members to be able to request for resources for their customers. As we know that now we are in the Stage 3 V4 delegation. With this, the members will be able to do that for their customer with a larger requirement of IPv4. In improving WHOIS, the IRT contact information, we have also introduced a bulk update feature that members can use to update the customer assignment and being able to make a reference to the IRT object. Will make the update a lot faster and easier. In simplifying the interface, we also make improvement to the certificate management page. User profile page, now it will be easier view of different activities located in different tab pages. And users now are also able to update all the WHOIS objects via the single interface within the resources section in my APNIC. And with that, I'll end my presentation. Thank you. Now I'll pass it on to Sanjaya. Thank you, George. Right. I'm going to cover the activity last year in the area of supporting internet development in the Asia Pacific region. Where should I? Good. So this particular area of activities that APNIC has is covers the policy development, IPv6 support, training, infrastructure capacity building, and our small funding grants, ISIF. And they basically support the mission that Paul mentioned earlier, the 3 missions on the right side of this slide. So let me start with the policy development. So last year we implemented one proposal, and that's the Prop 108, the improvement to the PDP process, which basically allows the whole process to be compressed from 8 weeks to 4 weeks in the last call stage. Pending implementation are 2 policies. Proposal 107 that allows ASN transfers between APNIC member and also between APNIC and other RIR that has a compatible policy. We are still working on the systems implementation side of it, so hopefully we can have this implemented next month. Proposal 105 that also received consensus in APNIC 36 talks about distribution of return IPv4 address to IANA. So it will basically allow members who still need IPv4 to receive yet another block up to a /22 from this recycled block. Unfortunately, this particular one needs to wait until the IANA recycled block becomes active. And that actually needs to wait until one of the RIRs stock goes down to below /9. So we don't know when this happens. It may, I think all prediction shows that it's going to happen this year. We just don't know which month. So it has to wait. This particular proposal will be implemented as soon as the IANA recycle pool becomes active. Now, during this week, we discussed 3 proposals. I do not want to go into detail because the policy secretary will bring the report on the discussion and the outcome of those discussions. So this is just for a reference, but I'll just skip these sections. So there's proposal 111, 110, and 109. You will hear more reports about this later on today. We are busy with the IPv6 support activity led by Miwa, whom I trust you know. In the outreach section, we attended many IPv6 meetings and conferences. Went to Geneva. There's a Brunei National IPv6 Day. There's a Taiwan IPv6 Summit, and MIWA's continuous support to the Asia Pacific IPv6 Task Force continued last year. We met in APNIC 36 and we had another very good session this week. So more information about IPv6 activities is available on the URL www.apnic.net/IPv6. We also published a white paper on IPv6 for decision makers. This white paper is written again by MIWA with consultations from industry experts.
basically to help decision makers to navigate their decision-making process on implementing IPv6. Training. APNIC has always been very active in training, in delivering training in the region. So we always increase our training activities year by year, and last year was no exception. We deliver more trainings than the previous years. Focus on IPv6 continue to be there, so we did face-to-face e-learning session combined with 3,591 participants. And we have a IPv6 e-learning day that is done every first Wednesday of every month. E-learning continues to be done in a very regular basis every Wednesday in 3 different time zones. We introduced new courses and we provided a total 179 hours altogether. And we will enhance the schedule for 2014. Face-to-face continues to focus on hands-on exercises, which cannot be done on the e-learning platform. So hands-on tends to be done on a face-to-face, and we improve our physical and virtual training labs to allow people to have their hands-on in configuring networks. New last year is our law enforcement agencies training, and this has been received very well where we did. So we did one in New Zealand, one in Sri Lanka, and then one in Philippines. And this is working with the actual police forces in each of those economies. And I'm also happy to report that we now have a security specialist appointed, so we will increase our focus in the coming years on security. We also provide engineering assistance on a cost recovery basis, so those telcos or ISP who needs assistance, hands-on assistance, we will send our expert to them and actually look at their configuration and help them improve their systems and network. This is the map of our activities last year. As you can see, it's all over the region, a total of 89 courses in 37 locations, over 2,600 participants, and our e-learning in 135 courses, almost 1,000 participants altogether. Very busy year. In infrastructure capacity building, thanks to Philip Smith's support, we provided training and equipment to help establish the Vanuatu IXP. We helped establishment of the iRoot server in Port Vila, Vanuatu. We held IXP workshop in Bangkok, Thailand. We worked towards establishing the country's first neutral IXP with, I believe, Professor Kanchana spoke about this week. And APNIC supported the establishment of Bangladesh NOC, BD-NOC, led by APNIC staff who happens to come from Bangladesh, Nurul Islam. On the small grants activities, ISIF Asia continued to be very busy. In the last IGF Bali meeting, they announced the ISIF 2013 ISIF Asia Award winners. Each of the winners received $3,000 Australian plus an opportunity to attend the IGF Bali. And the winner comes from these 4 categories of, the first one is innovation on access provision, and then innovation on learning and localization, code for the common good, and rights. Call for grants this year, was launched mid last year. We received 139 applications and 11 projects has been selected to be implemented in 2014. And as of to date, ISIF Asia has allocated
$1.2 million to 38 different projects in 17 economies across the Asia Pacific region. So I would encourage you all to look at this. If you've got innovative projects, we can fund through the ASIF Asia up to 30,000 Australian dollar. And let's not forget that ASIF Asia has now becoming part of a bigger alliance in small grants funding called the SEED Alliance. So we work with APNIC and APRICOT, and we receive funding from IDRC and SIDA, and we're looking for more funding. So got corporate responsibility program, please do contact us and channel your funds through this project. That's all from me. I will now pass it on to Paul to talk about our activities in the collaboration with the internet community.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, George. Okay, moving on to the third part of that pie chart that I showed you before, which is about the broader activities of APNIC, not only in the region but around the world in a whole range of collaborative activities that we've been conducting, most of them for quite some time, but things change, and I think we've got quite a few things to update you about today. Under this banner, we are providing leadership and advocacy in support of the vision of APNIC and in support of the community. And I'll be talking about labs, external relations, what we call strategic engagement, and internet cooperation. So I think everyone knows about labs. Unfortunately, Jeff Houston, who runs labs, has had to leave Malaysia this morning to go on to the IETF meeting. So I'm going to be reporting in not nearly as much detail or with not nearly as much entertainment, I think, as Jeff is capable of. But let me give you a rundown. For quite a few years now, Labs has become a global authority on IPv6 deployment rates through a unique measurement technique based on the actual end user capability. This is something that you may know about. It runs in a very crafty Google ad-based system where code is loaded through the display of a Google ad. The user does not even have to click on that ad to load the code and to run the test, which then beams results back to APNIC about the IPv6 capability on the computer that the code is running on the end user browser. So they're gathering a huge number of measurements every day and aggregating those and able to display them according to and analyze them according to economy and ISP and AS number and so on. Also reporting on not only the technical capabilities but the performance of end user IPv6 connections. There's a slide on this later along with the next one, which is taking the same measurement technique and applying it to DNSSEC. So we can also see at the end user level how DNSSEC validation is being done, if at all, and plot that by economy and ISP ASN across the region. So that also looks at performance of DNSSEC. And these are pretty unique measurement techniques that have been developed by Jeff and George in the labs, and I think we'll be going on accumulating that data and reporting on it for quite some time yet. We are also, as you would have seen if you were at the closing plenary yesterday, looking at BGP and routing almost continually, because as Jeff showed yesterday, there's a lot that you can learn, a lot that you can observe from the growth and the behaviours that we see in the routing system. And that becomes pretty interesting when we're looking at routing instability in particular as the internet continues to grow. RPKI is something that you've all heard about. It's the resource public key infrastructure critical to secured routing protocols which are being developed at the moment. So there have been standards activities by labs in the RPKI area, and they're also starting to look at measuring RPKI usage across the net as well. They're continuing to collect and analyse dark traffic on the internet, in particular through those individual 1/24 blocks in 1/8, and there was a policy proposal yesterday that actually allocates those blocks for usage of labs in that ongoing work. We've got continued reporting of resources, of resource allocations and distributions in IPv4, v6 and ASNs, and of course the famous exhaustion tracking, which is telling us new information these days about the likely exhaustion of v4 address space in LACNIC and AREN regions this year, as you also may have heard. The URL at the bottom, I realise, is not quite correct. The publications that come out of labs, in particular from Jeff, is on the website blabs, blabs at .apnic.net, which you can see there. It just says labs, but it should say blabs.apnic.net. Okay, I won't go into all of these graphs because there are a great number of observations, and there's a lot of data here, but this is just an example of what is coming out of labs in IPv6 measurements. As I mentioned, a huge number of measurements, over 350,000 per day, which are coming in, being aggregated and analysed. And those stats and the data that has come from there, the analysis and data is being used by people like Internet Society and OECD and other bodies who are looking at IPv6 deployment and growth around the world. Likewise, the DNSSEC data is being gathered and mapped. If Jeff were here, he might be able to tell you why Greenland has got the highest fraction of users using DNSSEC. I have no idea. But Greenland is up there with something like 1%, I think. But other countries are coming along behind. In particular, I think Sweden is there. Okay, moving on from labs into something that we're calling strategic engagement. Pablo Hinojosa has been in a position of Director of Public Affairs for some years now. He's extended that role into what is now referred to as strategic engagement, which is really the strategic and intelligent engagement of APNIC with bodies around the region and around the world with whom we kind of need to work and interact in a high-level way. So there's a lot of different engagements, a lot of different communications that we are developing, not only within our community, so network operators groups who are listed there, existing and new NOGs around the region, of course the NIRs with whom we work closely, and it's very good, I'll say, to have again the support of most of the NIRs in sponsoring this meeting today. APEC-TEL 47 and 48 were attended last year. Also meetings in the Pacific, which is a special area of focus for us because of the sheer number of different economies in the Pacific and the special needs that they have. We have a new focus, or an increasing focus in the security area at the moment. I think I may have mentioned last year in this position that we had an observable acceleration in the amount of interest, the amount of inquiry, the amount of interaction and engagement that we have on security matters. You know, that level of activity is actually accelerating quite rapidly at the moment, and I think everyone knows why. But just for instance, we were involved with the Interpol Cybercrime Conference in The Hague last year, and Interpol, by the way, is establishing a global office in Singapore coming up in the next year, and that's something that we'll be watching and working with closely. National Online Security Council Forum, APT Cybersecurity Forum. We've been undertaking new law enforcement agency, LEA training programs, which started last year actually in collaboration with Internet New Zealand, but we're now rolling that out and have conducted some trainings in the Philippines and Sri Lanka. We have new engagement with various certs around the region, and it was really nice to see the AP Cert Day, which happened here at APRICOT this week, because again, it's a matter of engaging with and bringing the communities together. And last but not least, we've appointed a full-time security specialist who's going to be involved with internal and external security liaison at APNIC, and that's Adli Wahid, who comes to us from MyCert. Adli is here with us today. So that's security. It will be an area of ongoing and increasing engagement, and that's something that we're being asked for through the APNIC member and stakeholder surveys, as I think you've seen in the past. Collaboration with the ISTAR, so-called ISTAR organisations, that's the RARs with ICANN, ISOC, IETF, IAB, NRO, and we have occasional meetings convened by the Internet Society to talk about strategic issues that are facing the Internet Technical Coordination community. So an example of that, and a significant one in which the NRO and APNIC actually played a very significant role, was the Montevideo Statement, which we'll be talking about a little bit more later today. The Internet Governance Forum is another one of those strategic engagements, a very important forum which is a magnet for policy makers, for decision makers, for those who are interested in how the internet is operating, and that's an increasingly large group these days. And so we are really finding ourselves drawn into the IGF process so that we can make sure that those people who are participating there and potentially wanting to make decisions affecting us, so that those people can understand what IP addressing is about, what APNIC is about, and how we fit into the overall structure. So quite a few meetings. There's a growing regional IGF process with regional meetings. The next one's coming up in India in August, and we had one last year in Seoul. And I'm serving as the interim chair of that meeting, trying to make sure that it develops and flourishes in a way that's useful to the community and in a way that helps this community in the Asia Pacific to interface with and interact with the global IGF process. Because to be frank, to be honest, the Asia Pacific representation in the global IGF has been less than it should be, far less than it should be. So for that reason, in fact, when we had the IGF meeting in Bali last year, that was the first IGF in this part of Asia. The only other Asian IGF has been in India quite some years ago. But we felt it was important to give strong support to that meeting to make sure it was successful, and again to bring Asian voices into the meeting. So I'm a member of the multi-stakeholder advisory group there, and try to implement those sorts of activities or those sorts of priorities in the MAG. And as usual during the IGF in Bali, which turned out to be actually a very successful meeting, the NRO with APNIC held a number of workshops and contributed to quite a few sessions there on IP addressing and related issues. The International Telecommunications Union, the ITU, is a pretty important, prominent global organisation that I'm sure you've all heard about. They have very large intergovernmental meetings about telecommunications matters, like the WTPF, the Telecoms Policy Forum last year, which we helped to contribute to by providing information about IPv4 exhaustion and IPv6 deployment, which are issues that many governments have been hearing about, not necessarily understanding, but that they do need to know in order that they can make the right decisions. We enter into quite a few of the ITU processes. We're able to input to them through a body called the APT, the Asia Pacific Telecommunity, and that's a long-standing regional body on telecommunications, which we joined formally last year as well to just give us better access to the APT, because it has been a very useful channel for bringing issues like IPv6 into that community. And there's been a number of other ITU related meetings that we try to follow. The ITU is a very expensive process to follow, I have to say. It's in order to join and to be recognised at all, you need to take out a sector membership, and we have chosen ITUD sector membership both for cost and also to emphasise our interest in the developmental side of the ITU's activities, rather than the telecommunications standards side, which starts to get rather complex and expensive and political. So anyway, we'll continue that ITU involvement, trying to keep it as efficient as possible over the coming years, because it really is a necessary part of and an important part of the environment these days. Okay, something I mentioned earlier was the Montevideo statement. That was an important statement, a sort of a game-changing statement that came out of a meeting last October. As I said, the NRO and APNIC played a strong role in actually encouraging a statement to be made and forming that statement. And it said a few important things about what the Internet technical community organisations were prepared to agree on and say about the current situation. So the statement was sparked actually by the surveillance revelations that happened during the last year, and a perception that there was a sort of a lack of trust in the internet that had come from those revelations, and that there was sort of increased risks of a sort of intervention in the internet governance arena in the technical coordination functions as a result of those. So we said we wanted to continue the evolution of the multi-stakeholder internet cooperation model to ensure that our communities are involved and engaged in that as much as they can be and want to be. We recognise that the status of ICANN and IANA are important here, and that there are calls for changes in the arrangements that are more global and more equitable in terms of government access. And that's about it. So we put that statement out in October. The APNIC EC actually met sometime later, endorsed it in December, and published a statement just this year. And at the same time supporting something that has become known as OneNet, which is a forum for interaction, for community interaction, wide and inclusive, involving anyone who wants to be involved to advance these discussions on internet cooperation. Now, we're going to be talking about that in a session which will allow and encourage, I hope, some discussion and interaction later on today after the morning tea break. So I hope that we'll have an interesting discussion about that when that time comes. And that's all I've got to say. I'd like to hand over now to Richard, Business Director, to talk about all the corporate support activities that have been going on the last year. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. I'll just get the... Okay, it's my pleasure to talk to you this morning about some of the great initiatives we've been doing in the corporate support in APNIC. I will, once I get this working. There's four main activities that I want to cover, and I'll begin by talking about the work we've done around our ISO accreditation. I'll then talk a little bit about the initiative around formalising our risk management framework. I'll talk about our investment policy, and then I'll highlight some of the major initiatives undertaken in the area of human resources during the year. As any of you were attended the meeting in Xi'an, we celebrated our 21st anniversary, but we also celebrated achieving our ISO accreditation. So back in late 2012, we set ourselves a ambitious target to achieve this accreditation in time for our anniversary meeting in Xi'an. It was a big project led by Frank, who's here, who did a fantastic job, but it was supported broadly across the organisation because it touched on all facets of the APNIC Secretariat. So ISO is a set of standards, international standards that specify other requirements of quality systems. So we're specifically talking about ISO 9001-2008. And APNIC is certified for the provision of services relating to the distribution and management of internet number resources across the Asia-Pacific region. So what's this all about? Well, it's all about ensuring that APNIC is operating a well-organised, well-managed environment within a quality management system. So I guess it's about the customer is the focus of all of this. So it's about bottom up and top down. So when we talk about our quality management system, we're talking about from the bottom up when a member joins APNIC, when they are allocated resources, when they do a transfer, when they interact with our services area, when we deal with finance and billing issues, and even when we come to running training events and a conference such as this. It's important that we have rigorous processes in place and that we ensure that we do the things the correct way, the same way every time we do them. And from the top down, it's about ensuring that how we incorporate and run the member survey, how we incorporate outputs from that survey with strategic direction from the Executive Council, how we roll that down into the executive leadership team and the priorities and targets they set for the teams, and how that rolls right down through the organisation, and how our staff work towards annual, quarterly and shorter term priorities. So, you know, really it's a very basic principle. It's about say what you do what you say, and prove it. So say what you do is the quality management system. It's about documenting your processes. So you do things the same way every time. Do what you say. It's about making sure that we've got the manual, we've got to make sure we use it, we've got to make sure that everyone does things the same way. And then it's about proving it. It's about having someone initially come in and audit the manual and interview staff and go right through all our processes to ensure that we're doing what we say we're doing. But of course they'll come back on a more regular basis annually to audit to ensure that we still comply. So, you know, it's really a process where, you know, it's focused on the customer, and, you know, it was a very ambitious target, and I believe that we were the first RIR to achieve this, and I think it's, you know, a real credit to APNIC staff. But I think what it really says is that, and what we figured is we did have very robust processes in place. And Paul's always focused on ensuring that we have a high level of service to our customers, who are our members and others. But I guess we probably didn't have it structured into one formal quality management system, but certainly through the audit process it identified that we certainly had, you know, a significant amount of the work was already done. So achieving accreditation was actually quite simple for us. But of course we've got to maintain that going forward. Risk management framework. One of the things we've been working on with the Executive Council this year is developing a more formal approach to how we consider strategic risks. So the risk register is something that is owned by the Executive Council. The risk register identifies all the major strategic risks that APNIC faces. It sets out a clear definition of these risks, looks at what the contributing factors are, and it looks at what controls we have in place to manage these risks. So it's looking at what controls we have, it's rating how effective these controls are, and it's considering the measure of success in these control mechanisms over time, and whether we're succeeding or failing. So it identifies appropriate actions to mitigate risks. So it drives part of our activity planning through the organisation. Where we see risks changing, we need to identify activities and allocate budget and resources to mitigate these risks where possible. The risks are rated based on, they're all allocated two measures. One of them is likelihood and the other is consequence. And multiplying that out gives you an overall risk rating, and that's how we determine how we prioritise the actions we take against particular risk based on a combination of likelihood and consequence. We've undertaken to review this register on a quarterly basis, so the executive leadership team will do a lot of the pre-work, but it will be presented to the EC for their consideration on a quarterly basis. And of course, you know, the main things we'll be watching in that, and the EC will be concerned about, is where there's significant changes from one quarter to another in the makeup of a risk, or whether some of the action plans or the control mechanisms we have in place aren't being effective. So that will be reviewed and considered by the EC on a quarterly basis. During 2013, we approved, the EC approved a formal investment policy after much consideration. The investment policy sets out the risk appetite and defines what APNIC's investment philosophy and objectives are. So we did a lot of work in understanding what APNIC's risk profile is, and you can probably understand, as a membership-based not-for-profit organisation, we're pretty low on the risk side of things. So of course we want to maximise the returns we have, but we obviously want to minimise the potential loss that we would make. So it's a fine balance between managing the expectations of return against the risk you want to take. But we did a lot of work with initially the Commonwealth Bank to develop this policy. They had a specialist not-for-profit advisory, and they gave us initial advice. Eventually we considered a proposal from Credit Suisse, and James had done a lot of work with them previously, and he invited them to come and look at the proposal we had from in place from Commonwealth Bank, and in the end they came back with a proposal that we felt was more cost effective and offered a much more prudent approach to managing APNIC's investments. So we appointed Credit Suisse after the Executive Council approval in August, and we began transitioning funds into that new investment policy from September. So we now have active management of APNIC's investment reserves, and they provide us with monthly and regular reports, and they attend an annual meeting face-to-face with the Executive Council to give them an update. So that's been a fairly major initiative that's been undertaken during 2013. Human resources. We have Louise here with us this week in Malaysia. I know Louise has very much enjoyed being out and meeting as many of you as possible. She doesn't come to all our meetings, so maybe Louise, you might want to stand up so everyone knows who you are. So if you haven't had the opportunity to meet Louise, you know, please take the time to say hello. I'm sure she'd enjoy to meet anyone she hasn't so far. There were some important initiatives in human resources in 2013. We went through a formal organisational structural review. So we're talking about ensuring that we're better aligned in our structure to meet our strategy, to deliver on, you know, the requirements and the activity plans we have ahead. So part of this was doing a review of all the roles in the organisation, looking at the levels of work that we do, looking at particular individuals and determining whether they are actually operating at the right level in the organisation. So it's a continuing piece of work, but you're seeing evidence of that being implemented now. Paul talked about Sanjaya being more formalised in his role as Deputy Director General. Almost made him Director General there, sorry. And of course, we talked about some of the new positions. We have Adley, who's also introduced. Tony's come on board as the Communications Director, and there'll continue to be more changes as we align the organisation to better deal with what's ahead of us. In 2013, we undertook our first staff engagement survey. So this was a survey across all the staff to get important feedback about how they saw APNIC and the issues they see we're facing. You know, I think out of that there's come some work that we need to consider, but overall APNIC's results were above what has been benchmarked for our organisation. So a good result, but obviously there's other areas we can focus more on going forward. We implemented a new performance management system in 2013, so we've just all been through the process of our first annual review under that new system, and it's proving to be very robust, and I think it's going to really help us manage this part of our admin and HR function going forward. So that's going well. We had a staff conference to celebrate APNIC's anniversary during the year. It was a really good opportunity to get all the staff together off site, and it was really nice to see, you know, how much energy there was when we had that group together. So one of the things that we agreed to do out of that was to implement a One Vision action group. So we have volunteer representatives from different parts of the organisation working to provide focus on improvement initiatives. So the team meet regularly. They're looking at innovative ways to make APNIC, you know, a better and more active organisation that can more effectively deal with what's ahead of us. So it's an exciting challenge for us to do that. We have a lot of very motivated people, so I think I'm hoping that this time next year we'll be up reporting some of the great achievements we've got in this area utilising our One Vision action group. But I think that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any question or comments for the annual report from the Secretariat? I think it's really substantial. A lot of things is happening. Then the process and the structure is really establishing and being established, which is really something Executive Council is really happy to observe. But if you have any question or comments, Peter?
Pinder Wong, ex-member, I guess, a long time ago. Just want to make an observation that this is a long time since I've been to one of these meetings. The snapshot here is just phenomenal in terms of the organizational processes you put in place and the growth. And so I commend the EC and everyone on such a great development. It's really stunning. From when APNIC won, there was like one person and a laptop. So you've come a long way, so congratulations.
Thank you very much. I actually do agree on that. Anything else? If not, we should move forward. Hold on, please. Okay. All right. All right. Yes. Then it's all for the annual report, and I'd like to invite Craig for some brief explanation about the Executive Council election.
Good morning. My name is Craig Ng. I'm the General Counsel of APNIC. This morning, I'd like to give you an update and a brief explanation about the APNIC EC elections for 2014. This thing needs a plus and forward and backward key. As you know, APNIC, the organization, the members, the Executive Council, its operations, is governed by its bylaws. The APNIC bylaws describe the composition of the APNIC Executive Council, the powers and functions of the EC, the terms of service of each EC member, and how office holders, the chair, the treasurer, and the secretary, are elected. Next slide. Specifically, in relation to the Executive Council itself, the bylaws provide that the Executive Council comprises of 7 members. The Director General acts as ex officio member of the EC. That means that whoever holds the position of the Director General sits on the Executive Council, and that Executive Council members serve 2-year terms and are eligible for re-election. You can see the references to the relevant bylaws in this slide here. Hey, I'm a lawyer, not a technology guy. In this slide, you can see the current 7 Executive Council members and when they were elected and what their terms are. So you can see that from the 2012 APNIC EC elections, Maemura Akinori, Chihu Cheng, and Ma Yan were elected, and that their term would expire in 2014 in this year. During the period that's open for nomination for APNIC elections this year, there were 3 nominations received for the 3 vacant positions. And in order of nomination received, they were Ma Yan, Chihu Cheng, and Maemura Akinori. Because the number of nominations is the same as the number of the vacant positions, there is no contest for the vacant positions. For this reason, there will be no election this year. Ma Yan, Chihu Cheng, and Maemura Akinori will therefore be deemed to have been re-elected for a 2-year term each. Will you please join me in congratulating each of them? Now, I might add that this is not an unusual occurrence. Many organizations experience this phenomena where the number of nominees is less than or equal to the number of vacant positions. In fact, actually for APNIC, as I understand it, this has occurred once before in 2004. Now, usually and customarily, the EC elects the office holders at the first EC meeting following an election. The office holders under the APNIC bylaws are the chair, the secretary, and the treasurer, and they're elected by a majority vote amongst the EC members. This year, because there is no election as it happens, and the composition of the Executive Council remains unchanged, there is no need to wait until after this AMM before the Executive Council can elect the office holders. So at the EC meeting held earlier this week on Monday, the Executive Council by majority elected Maemura Akinori as its chair, James Spenceley as its treasurer, and Ma Yan as its secretary. Will you join me again in congratulating each of them for their re-election? So this concludes my explanation. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. Then I'm very happy to have another term to serve you as the chairman of the Executive Council. Thank you very much. And I do need your help for our job to serve you. Thank you. Then we are running really earlier than planned. Then, okay, open microphone. Any question or comments? Open mic doesn't mean that you should necessarily question or comments for the what was presented, but if you have your own say, then please go up to the microphone and say something. Linda, thank you very much for your contribution.
Just wondering, do you provide remote participation options? Are there any comments or observations also offline, given not everyone can come?
Great. Great point. Who is taking care of the remote participation right now? Okay. Does anyone? No. All right. Okay. Fine. All right. I think the coffee break timing is really fixed. Then I think we should move forward to the reports from the Executive Council. Then I think it is already ready for run the treasurer report. Then I'd like to invite James Spencer, our treasurer, to deliver his report to the membership. Thank you, James.
Thank you, everybody. As you know, APNIC has a December financial year end, so this is the full year report. I know financial years vary across geographies, but APNIC has adopted a calendar year financial year. So this is the full year financial report from me. Okay, so at the end of, obviously at a full year, we have audited accounts prepared by Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young is a global tier 1, top 4 provider of financial and accounting services, incredibly well respected. They are also in their 5th year as our auditor, so we'll have to, by rotation, replace them for next year. But they have audited the financial results, of which the APNIC EC meeting on Monday, we have approved those accounts and audit reports. So the operating revenue for the full year of 2013 was 17.6 million. Our budget was 17.7 million. We were 1% below budget. There was a small reduction in IP resource allocation fee and a small reduction in membership fees, primarily just due to members moving from APNIC directly to the Indian NIR. We assumed a certain amount of members and we were very slightly off there. Operating expenses, a very positive note. Operating expenses were 14.6 million. Our budget for the year was 16 million, so we actually came in 9% under budget. There was a contribution there, quite a large contribution of almost 400,000 of financial gains as we transitioned away from our individual investments to the managed investment portfolio of Credit Suisse. So that would have taken it to 15 million. So we were, again, still, apart from that, a financial accounting metric of the one-off gains, we were 1 million below budget. A large portion of that was salary and personnel expenses at almost 400,000, and the ICANN contract fee, which, if you remember from the half-year report, because we're now in the final /8, we haven't been receiving as much space, and the ICANN fees were based on how much space you receive. So we highlighted that to ICANN at the beginning of the year. They didn't change that, but they have since done that, so we've budgeted a higher amount for 2014. And contributing more equitably our share of the fees. So statement of income and revenue, you can see there the breakdown. Membership fees is the largest category there, and the middle line item of 15 million, and that was very, very close to budget of 15.045 million. And then IP resource application fee, that is the new member, effectively resource application fee when the member joins of 1.4 million. And then we have some investment income and sort of non-member fee reactivation fees and smaller fees there. You'll see there a lot of red there on the expenses lines. Red is good on expenses. Red means we're under budget for expenses, so don't take red as bad. You'll see some of the big, obviously, reductions in expenses there is the financial gains as we transition away from our independent investments to the managed product. So that was 400,000 of the expenses. Salary and personnel expenses were 373,000 under budget. Quite a number of timing differences there. We didn't hire people or replace people as quickly as expected. So that's obviously caused a reduction under budget of quite a substantial amount, 4% under budget. So what we'll find is that we'll actually see a larger increase in salary expenses for 2014. because we'll catch back up on those people that didn't start earlier in the year, and they'll contribute for the full year of 2014, as well as some increases in line with the 2014 budget. Okay, so you can see the highlights there. The original budget had 17.7 million in revenue expected, expenses of 15.9, giving us a surplus of 1.7 million. The actual performance, as noted, was 17.5 million in revenue, 14.6 million in expenses, giving us a total surplus of $2.98 million. All that flows down to the balance sheet. You'll see there that we have an increase of a very similar amount, 2.9 million, in terms of the net assets of APNIC, growing from 14.8 million to 17.8 million. Again, just highlighting that certainly my role as Treasurer and that of the EC, we're very focused on creating a strong and financially viable APNIC going forward. So we're very focused on increasing the net assets and cash reserves of APNIC as an organisation. On that topic, there is the slides, the graph of our performance historically and in 2013. The green line is our expenses, so that's the running total of our expenses. The blue bar chart is our cash. The purple line is property, that's the APNIC office in Brisbane that we purchased in 2010. We still hold that at the original value. We haven't adjusted that value, so you won't see a change in the value flowing through the accounts. Although we're very convinced that that's been a sound investment, and we've probably, based on recent sales in the area, we've probably, certainly have more value there than we're accounting on the books. And then what you'll see is a large shift there from cash into the orange bar column, and that is the financial assets. So that's moving just simply from keeping cash on our books to the Credit Suisse managed portfolio, which consists of stocks, bonds, hedge funds, managed investments across a whole range of diversified investments. As Richard said, we took a view probably at the last EC offsite that given the interest rates globally and interest rates in Australia are so low, that we as the EC should be doing something with the cash reserves that better gives the members a return. So we've crafted what I think is a very conservative and also very diverse portfolio that we should see better returns than cash, but also with very low volatility and very low risk. Obviously, our primary goal in terms of the investment policy is not to lose money, and only then is our goal to actually increase returns above the cash rate. So basic defence interval, this is a very well-renowned a metric for viewing really how a business is operating in terms of its cash reserves. So we have total current financial assets, that being the cash and the investments of 21.2 million. Our daily operating expenses, so how much money on in any given month divided by the number of days in the month, is 44,180. So if we ceased getting any income, if we literally didn't get another dollar of income, we could operate for 15.78 months. Since becoming Treasurer, I requested that we review the period that we keep in terms of reserves. Historically, it was 12 months, and then at the Brisbane offsite, EC offsite last year, we agreed to increase that and target 18 months. So I think that's very sound. We don't know necessarily where membership resources and membership will be going in the next 5, 10, 15 years' time. So I think that while we have this opportunity and lots of new members joining with the final/8 policy, we should be certainly making sure that we are very sound in terms of our expense management and very focused on making a surplus and increasing the cash and reserves. So that's the year that was. I'll focus now on 2014. The budget process is, I think, incredibly rigorous. I've been involved in these types of processes in a number of organisations, and I have to give credit to Richard and the finance team. I mean, this is an incredibly sound budget that they produce. It's bottom up. It's incredibly accurate. As you saw, they were within 1% on revenue in an environment that's actually quite difficult to predict. So they use a lot of modelling to understand membership growth, membership lapses, and create specific sort of goals and targets for the budget for the year in terms of net members. and they've proved very accurate. So it allows us as a EC to have a huge amount of faith in these numbers. There's the revenue budget for 2014. We've broken that down into categories. You'll see that the actual for 2013 on the right-hand column there was 17.6 million, and we've expected a marginal growth of around 3%. Obviously contributed from new members joining and taking into account sort of members having left for the Indian NIR. So overall, we'll see what we expect to be just a little bit over 18 million in revenue for 2014. Expenses will be up in 2014. As you saw, we were well under. We were sort of 6% under expenses in 2013, really to do with timing and delays in when expenses came on. So you'll see that probably some of that growth, that 10% growth, is partly related to 2014 being under budget, and partly related to typical growth in 2014. Again, look, we're very focused on making sure that the expenses of APNIC are kept well in check, and that we're not growing at a faster rate than we think is that is needed for the amount of members or services that the membership requests. So some of the big growth in terms of raw numbers there is salaries and personnel expenses. That's growing by almost 500,000, which is a 6% increase. Australian CPI is running at around about 3% currently, so we're talking about a 3% increase above CPI, and that includes things like new hires like the security manager and replacing staff that have left. Small increase, modest increase of 6% in travel expenses. Primarily that relates to travel expenses are just going up across the board. That's a change in the Australian dollar rate. Also, things like oil and hotel rates seem to be increasing particularly. So probably around about half that is just an increase in general costs for travel, as well as just obviously we're planning on more outreach and training events, which takes more travel. That's really the major items there. As I say, the 10% looks like a large increase, but you have to recall that we were quite under budget last year. So on a net basis, that really is about half. We're planning again another operating surplus. Again, our goal is to get to 18 months of cash reserves. So that's not going to be possible if we keep increasing expenses, but not increasing our surplus on a year-to-year basis. So our surplus was 2.9 million. Again, we mostly out of cost control in 2013. We're planning now for a budget surplus of 1.9 million, or almost 2 million for 2014. You can see the graph here gives you an outline of expenses and revenue in an easy-to-read format rather than an accountant's format. You'll see back in sort of the early 2000s, APNIC expenses were a lot lower than revenue, and then we had a long period up until 2010 where expenses either matched or in some cases were more than revenue in those years. So since I've taken over in 2011, we've had a key focus on creating surplus for APNIC, strengthening the financial position of APNIC, and you can see we're continuing that trend. I've done a projection here with the help of the finance team for the graph that you saw earlier. That's the breakdown of property investments and cash versus the green line, which is our expense. So as you see, expenses are going up, but again, in a graphical representation there, our assets and cash are also going up and increasing at a larger rate than the expenses. So, in summary, I'm particularly pleased with the management team and the finance team and the whole organisation for their cost control in 2013. I think we have a very defendable and sound budget with some growth in a number of key areas, and I think that's been very well prepared and very dependable by the finance team. And I think that the position APNIC is in financially is just getting stronger and stronger, and that remains a key focus of mine and the EC. So happy to throw it over to questions.
Thank you, James. Question or comments? Rajesh.
Rajesh Charya, President ISPI. Really, it was a very good budget, and you are able to control the expenditure as well as the revenue has been increased. My request on behalf of the community, as you are taking care of your budget, you should also take care of budget of your aligned members, community, along with that. The way you are looking towards your bottom line, we also have to struggle for our bottom line. I requested in Cambodia about reviewing of some fee of this 190% premium for the NIR community. How to bring down that little bit so that we should be able to do something for our improvement, as well as we should be able to support the ISP industry, which are very struggling into the underdeveloping or the underdeveloped countries. Because we are the late starter and we want some support. And the support by the APNIC at this time will be very helpful for the community.
Sure, thanks, Rajesh. Look, this is all a balancing act. I mean, it's finances between APNIC and the members are a little bit like a balloon. You squeeze it in the middle, and the air moves to the outside. So this is a balancing act between creating a financially sound and stable APNIC, which I think is in every member's interest, and then of course the community's interest, as well as balancing that with the needs of the members. I would point out APNIC already has a least developed member discount of 50% on the fees, so we do take care of the least developed nations. But look, it's a valid point. The issue for us is that NIR fees make up a very large portion of our revenue. They are, while small in terms of numbers, very large in terms of revenue. So we have a difficulty in adjusting those fees because the impacts are incredibly large. Now, if we say that we have to have a different fee base for each of the NIRs, depending on where they are or their circumstances of their members, that becomes very difficult for us to arrange because it's inequitable for potentially the JPNIC to be paying higher fees on a per IP address or equivalent basis than say the Indian NIR. So look, that is very problematic, but certainly, as always, we've heard that view and happy to discuss at our next EC meeting and see if there's any ways that we can assist our members. And I'll point out we do review fees every year now. We haven't increased fees for I think now 4 years, 5 years, and then previous fee increase from that was, 5 or 6 years at least before that. So look, in a world where things typically go up by CPI, over 5 years not having raised fees does, obviously is a discount in and of itself.
Let me correct myself. I'm not talking only for the Indian NIR. I'm talking of the overall all the NIRs into this region. My suggestion was because the small member of the /22 or the /24 are coming to NIR directly rather than coming to APNIC. If from the last /8 pool or the last /10 pool, which we are expecting very shortly, if we will be getting little bit support so that we should be able to transfer that favor to the smaller group to encourage them to join more and more and take their own resources.
Sure, and membership outreach is something you've probably heard quite a bit from the Secretariat, and that's something we're very focused on at the moment. And we're actually APNIC as an organisation is investing in is getting more and more members to join. Some of the work we've done internally really showed that people don't know that they can come to APNIC. Organisations, corporate entities, enterprises don't know they can come to APNIC to get address space. So we're working very heavily to make people more aware of that. But if there's a bottleneck in the pricing model that's consistent across the region, I'm very happy to look at that. Maybe we could take that offline, see if there's a way that we could encourage more people to join. Any further questions? No.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, we come to the 10:30 when we have the tea break for morning. Thank you very much, and we will resume at the 30 minutes later, which makes 11 o'clock. Please come back at the time. Thank you very much. Let's enjoy that tea and coffee.